women in history never heard of and wouldn't be surprised if you haven't either. Today, let's talk about Joan Newton Cuneo. Joan Newton Cuneo was born in 1876 and passed away in 1934. She was one of the most famous American race car drivers of her time, and so fast that she made men's, egos shrivel up a little bit. Joan was born to a very wealthy family. Thanks, industrialization! In Holyoke, Massachusetts. She was good at bicycling, horseback riding, and apparently her dad taught her how to do some pretty inappropriate things, like driving a team of 6 horses and operating the family's narrow gauge, short line steam locomotive. Totally inappropriate. You thought I was going to go elsewhere with that, didn't you? Well, it was inappropriate because she was a girl. Well, by the time she finished boarding school, which was allegedly to turn her into a Victorian lady, her dad had already been letting her drive cars. You didn't see that coming, did you? I didn't clue you in or anything at the beginning. Anyway, Joan loved cars and going fast in cars. She married her first husband, Andrew, a banker, in 1898. They had 2 kids. And in 1902, Andrew indulged his wife and bought her a 1902 Locomobile. I have no idea if that's how they actually said it. It had a top speed of 30 miles an hour. Downhill. Now see, he picked that one because he was worried she wouldn't be able to handle a more powerful one. In a 1914 article, she said that thing was like a steam runabout with only kerosene lamps to light the road. The one drive chain that always slipped at the wrong time and place. And it had little bicycle tires. Well, not long after Andrew bought her that car, he also hired a mechanic. A neighbor who'd recently been acquitted of unaliving someone. His name was Louis Disbrow, and he taught Joan everything he knew about cars and engines. Yeah, well, it turns out that car was too damn slow. So, in 1903, she was the proud owner of a brand spanking new 4-passenger steam touring car with a rear entrance, carbide generators for headlights, and a drive shaft instead of a chain. She later said driving that thing was like driving a large ferry boat. But see, it didn't just drive her around town. It drove her passion. She needed to race. But she was a woman, and that's inappropriate, remember? Fuck that. Her first major competition was the 1905 Glidden Tour. The Glidden Tours were endurance contests, held mostly on primitive roads. Rain could turn the course into dangerous mud. Along the way, there were fuel shortages, because even steam needs something to burn to run. Reoccurring breakdowns, so it wasn't easy. The course that year was 1,350 miles of rough terrain, from St. Louis, Missouri, all the way to New York City. Oh, and she was the only woman who entered. The Glidden Tour was sponsored by the American Automobile Association. Yep, AAA. The race was meant to promote the benefits of cars and the need for better roads. Initially, AAA rejected her application. Yep, because she didn't have a peener. But there was nothing in the rules that specifically said it was only for men. So she sent her application right the fuck back in. And caught on a technicality. AAA let her in. I know, smart women. So annoying. Anyway, with her she took her husband, her sister, and Disbrow. Day 1, uneventful. Day 2, eventful. See, there was this other racer driving in front of her. No brake lights, no reverse lights. Keep that in mind. Because time period. So he was reversing from this bridge to avoid a dynamite blast. No, seriously. It was a road construction crew of all things. Just not in time for the race. She was driving a 15 horsepower 1905 white steam car, 50% faster than her old one. She didn't realize the dude in front of her was backing up until it was almost too late. So she did what anybody would do. She swerved down an embankment. And the car landed on its side in a stream. None of the passengers was hurt, and Joan had a race to finish. So some bystanders helped them right the car, and she relit the burners all on her own while it was still in the water. That wreck made her famous. But let's talk about something else that happened during the race. Well, she got, of all things, a speeding ticket. It was most definitely not the only one that she got. Then there was Mount Washington. Drivers were going to take a steep road to get over. Well, AAA said it was too steep and dangerous for a woman. So they didn't let her. She literally said, I have operated a car for 5 years and know my car far better than a lot of men do. I believe I could back it, run it sideways, or any old way, and land there in better time than some of the men drivers did. At least one source said, men complained, and that may have contributed to AAA blocking her from going up the mountain. Big surprise! I know! Come on, big egos are very sensitive things. Anyway, after that, she had some pretty serious transmission problems. Disbro went to work. He even completely rebuilt part of the engine. And she finished. Side note, Disbro later drove in the first and second ever NASCAR races. He didn't do very well, but he drove. Oh, but back to Mount Washington. Yeah, so AAA said that since she didn't go over the mountain, it disqualified her because she didn't technically finish. So they gave her a participation certificate. All that did was fire her up. So in 1907, another Glidden tour. This time her car was estimated at 35 horsepower. And this time the route was 1,570 miles long, with a new rule. Drivers had to be members of a club that was associated with AAA. Well, as a woman, she'd never been invited to be part of a club, which meant there could be no overall victory for Joan. But she still raced to win. Along the way, she had a high-speed blowout, broken springs, and a broken axle. But she finished. 1908, another Glidden. And that time she was part of a club, the Chicago Motor Club. Now that time she drove the entire route alone. She said she didn't need a mechanic. She could do it herself. The other racers, guys, yeah, well, they had relief drivers. Joan was like, fuck that. We doing the damn thing. And she finished with a perfect score. She got a silver cup from the other drivers for her, quote, sportsmanship and pluck. I think pluck is like stick-to-itiveness or something. Go ahead and look it up. She got a gold medal from AAA that time, and a second cup from the Chicago Motor Club because she made them look good. But 1909, that was probably one of her most impressive years. She was in New Orleans for a 3-day Mardi Gras festival, and there she was going to be racing against some of the fastest drivers in the country. Men, of course. One of them was Ralph De Palma, probably the fastest and most popular racer of the time. With him and many other drivers, Joan entered a 50-mile race, and she stayed very near De Palma's bumper. He finished in 51 minutes, 37 seconds. She finished in 52 minutes, 40 seconds, only 63 seconds behind him. And no other driver was even close. Over that 3-day festival, she also set a lot of women's speed records. And wouldn't you know it, that is the same year that AAA banned women from racing. You know, I gotta believe that that's probably because in the next race, she wasn't gonna take second. She never did race like that again. But according to her biographer, Elsa Nystrom, she took every opportunity to set a speed record on a track. Like in 1911, when she drove a recorded 111.5 miles per hour in a Pope Hummer on Long Island. By the end of 1915, she and hubby were kaput. Eventually, and with her son and his wife, she moved to a little town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Ontonagon to be precise. There, she married her second husband in 1928, Francis Sickman. She was really involved in the Ontonagon community, the UP Development Bureau, the American Legion, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and she made sure that images of Ontonagon were included at the 1933 Chicago World Fair. Joan passed away, as I said, in 1934. The Upper Peninsula Development Bureau issued a commendation in her memory, referring to her as Mrs. J.F. Sickman, because heaven forbid that she have her own name. Anyway, her obituary said nothing about her racing career. The Boston Globe also printed her obituary, and they did mention her racing career. Mentioned. But you know, everything I read leads me to believe she was not in it for the recognition. She just loved racing, pushing her car to its limits, feeling that rush of adrenaline, and crushing men's egos so hard that she's been called the woman who got women banned from racing.